Have you ever stopped understanding what you're doing? You wake up and realize the things that motivated you have turned to ash. That job that seemed solid now weighs like lead. That relationship that made sense has become strange, almost artificial. You look around and nothing fits anymore. Conversations are shallow. Your old goals seem ridiculous. There's a void you cannot name. This isn't depression. This isn't a common existential crisis. It's something deeper and more terrifying. You're crossing an invisible threshold. Most people run when this happens. They rush back to their comfort zone, bury the feeling with distractions, work, Netflix, anything. But you can't pretend anymore. This confusion isn't the end. It's the beginning of a radical metamorphosis that few people have the courage to complete. When nothing makes sense, you've lost signal with the old world. You're on another planet now, alone, without a map. And this terrifying solitude is exactly what will set you free. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets or warnings. There's no dramatic moment where everything collapses at once. Instead, it's quiet, insidious. You're sitting at your desk on a Tuesday afternoon, staring at your computer screen, and suddenly the question arrives uninvited. What am I actually doing here? Not in a philosophical way. In a visceral, immediate way. The spreadsheet in front of you, the meeting you just attended, the email you're about to send, all of it feels like you're watching someone else's life through a thick glass window. You can see the movements, hear the sounds, but there's no connection anymore. The thread that held meaning to action has snapped. You try to shake it off. Tell yourself you're tired, that you need a vacation, that everyone feels this way sometimes. But deep down, you know this is different. This isn't burnout. Burnout is when you're exhausted from caring too much. This is the opposite. This is when you realize you might have never cared at all. You were just performing the caring, executing a script someone else wrote. The mechanisms of your life continue running. You still wake up, brush your teeth, go through the motions, but it's mechanical now. Autopilot. And the more you notice this automation, the more alien it becomes. How did you end up here? When did you agree to this particular configuration of existence? You scan your memories looking for the moment of decision, but find only a series of small compromises, each one barely noticeable. That accumulated into a life you don't recognize. Your relationships start feeling scripted too. That friend you meet every month, are you actually connecting or just maintaining a habit? That family dinner where everyone asks the same questions and you give the same answers. When did it become theater? Even your inner voice, the one that's supposed to be authentically you, starts sounding borrowed. Phrases you've heard in podcasts, ideas from books, opinions that aren't really yours but you've repeated so many times they calcified into identity. The panic sets in slowly. Not the sharp panic of immediate danger, but the slow drip panic of realizing you've been living in a structure that's no longer sound. The foundation hasn't cracked all at once. It's been eroding grain by grain, and you're only now noticing that you're standing on something hollow. You look at the people around you, and they seem fine. They're laughing at jokes, planning vacations, complaining about traffic, living. How are they doing it? Do they feel what you feel and just hide it better? Or is there something wrong with you specifically? Some malfunction that's preventing you from enjoying the game everyone else is playing? This is when the first lie gets exposed. The lie that if you just follow the path, do the right things, check the boxes, life will make sense. That meaning is something you achieve through accumulation. Better job, better relationship, better apartment, better version of yourself. But you've been accumulating, and the emptiness only grows more sophisticated. You decorated it, gave it a nice title, surrounded it with impressive objects, but it's still emptiness. The day your life stopped working isn't when everything falls apart. It's when everything keeps functioning perfectly and you realize the function itself is the problem. The machine runs smooth and you're the ghost inside it, watching, wondering when you became machinery. Some people never have this day. They live entire lives inside the mechanism, occasionally uncomfortable, but never quite awake enough to see the bars. Others have this day and immediately sedated. Therapy that teaches coping instead of transformation. Medication that dulls the signal. New projects, new relationships, new cities. Anything to avoid sitting with the fundamental question that's screaming now. Is this actually my life, or am I living someone's idea of what a life should be? You can't go back to sleep once you've seen it. That's the curse and the gift. The comfortable numbness is no longer available. You tried. You attempted to re-engage with your routines with fresh enthusiasm, to convince yourself that meaning was just a matter of perspective, that gratitude practice and positive thinking would restore the connection. But it's like trying to believe in Santa Claus after you've seen your parents wrapping the presents. The innocence is gone. What happens next is usually one of two paths. Most people panic and grab the nearest replacement. They switch jobs, thinking the problem is the work. They end relationships, thinking the problem is the partner. They move cities, thinking the problem is location. And for a few weeks or months, the novelty creates a simulation of aliveness. But then, the same feeling returns because the problem was never external. The other path, the one fewer people take, is to sit in the discomfort, to not immediately reach for solutions or distractions, to actually investigate what's happening. And this is terrifying because it means acknowledging that maybe everything you've built was built on assumptions you never questioned, that maybe the entire foundation needs to be examined, not just rearranged. You start asking different questions, not how do I fix this, but why did I build this in the first place? Not how do I get my motivation back, but was that motivation ever mine? Not how do I find meaning again, but what was I calling meaning before? These questions don't have quick answers. They open doors to rooms you've kept locked your entire adult life. Rooms where you stored the parts of yourself that didn't fit the acceptable narrative. The dreams you abandoned because they weren't practical. The desires you suppressed because they weren't appropriate. The ways of being that felt natural but looked weird to others. The day your life stopped working, you were given an invitation. Not a pleasant one, not one you would have chosen, but an invitation nonetheless. To stop performing, to stop optimizing, to stop pretending that you can engineer your way into authenticity. To admit that you have no idea what you're doing, and that maybe not knowing is exactly where you need to be. Because what you're experiencing isn't failure. It's not a crisis to be managed or a problem to be solved. It's an emergence. Something in you knows that the current configuration has reached its limit. That you've extracted all the growth possible from this particular way of being. And now, it's time to molt. To shed the old skin, to become something you can't yet see. The life that stopped working was never meant to work forever. It was a phase. A necessary phase where you learned certain skills, developed certain capacities, navigated certain challenges. But phases end, and when they do, trying to extend them is like trying to stay in childhood because adulthood looks scary. It's not actually possible, and the attempt only creates suffering. So, the day your life stopped working was actually the day it started working differently. The day the autopilot shut off and you were given back the controls. The day the script ended and you were left with blank pages. The day the costume stopped fitting and you were forced to stand there naked, wondering what clothes actually belong to you. This is the beginning, not the end. The mechanism breaking down is what allows something organic to emerge. The meaning draining out is what creates space for meaning that's actually yours. The confusion isn't a sign you're lost. It's a sign you're finally paying attention. What you do with this attention determines everything. You can use it to build a more sophisticated prison, one with better decorations and more impressive bars. Or you can use it to find the door you never noticed before. The one that's been unlocked the whole time. The one that leads out of the life you inherited and into the life that's actually yours. The day your life stopped working was the day you became capable of starting something real. Imagine an astronaut floating in space, watching Earth shrink to a blue marble in the distance. The radio crackles. Static, then silence. That's what this feels like. Every familiar frequency you've been tuned to suddenly broadcasting nothing but white noise. The channels that used to deliver clear signals, validation, instructions, purpose, they've all gone dead. You reach for your phone and scroll through social media. Hundreds of people performing their lives, sharing victories, documenting moments. It used to pull you in, trigger comparison, make you feel something. Now, it looks like transmissions from a civilization you no longer belong to. Their concerns feel alien. Their excitement about promotions and purchases and weekend plans lands flat. You're not judging them. You're just on a different frequency now. The same disconnection happens in real conversations. Someone is telling you about their new apartment, their vacation, their plans for the future. You hear the words. You know the socially appropriate responses. You even deliver them convincingly. But there's a lag, a delay between their reality and yours. Like you're receiving signals from Earth, but you're already orbiting somewhere else, somewhere without familiar coordinates. This isn't selective disconnection. It's total. You lose signal with your own ambitions. That career goal that drove you for years suddenly seems arbitrary. Why did that matter? What was it actually for? The answer you would have given 6 months ago sounds like something you memorized from a self-help book. You can't locate the genuine desire underneath. Maybe it was never there. You lose signal with your preferences. What do you actually like? What brings you real joy versus performed joy? You used to have immediate answers. Now you suspect those were just conditioned responses. You liked what you were supposed to like, wanted what culture told you to want. Strip away the programming and there's just void. Terrifying, formless void where a personality should be. The isolation gets worse because you can't explain this to anyone. How do you describe losing connection with reality itself? You're not hallucinating. You're not delusional. You haven't lost touch with facts. You've lost connection with the meaning everyone agreed those facts should have. The collective story that makes normal life feel coherent. You can still see the story, describe it, analyze it. You just can't live inside it anymore. People notice something's off. They try to help from inside the paradigm you've exited. You should find your passion. Set better boundaries. Practice gratitude. Try therapy. Get on medication. Join a gym. Take a trip. All these solutions assume the problem is that you've lost connection with something you should reconnect to. They don't understand that the disconnection itself is the evolution. What they're trying to fix is actually an upgrade in progress. Your receiver is changing frequencies, and during the transition, everything goes dark. You're between stations. The old signal is too primitive for what you're becoming. The new one hasn't locked in yet. You're suspended in static, and everyone's advice is basically turn the dial back to where it was, but you can't. That's the thing nobody tells you about this phase. Once the signal drops, you can't fake the connection anymore. You tried. You attempted to re-engage with your old sources of meaning, to force yourself to care about the things that used to matter. But it's like trying to enjoy a TV show when you've seen behind the scenes and know it's all actors on a set. The suspension of disbelief is permanently broken. This is when the loneliness becomes existential. Not lonely for people, you might be surrounded by people. Lonely for recognition. For someone to look at you and understand that you're not depressed or lost or having a crisis. You're going through a transformation that doesn't have a name in the common vocabulary. You're shedding a frequency, and the process is supposed to feel disorienting. You start noticing things you never saw before. The way everyone performs certainty when they're just as confused as you, but better at hiding it. The way culture offers prepackaged identities and calls it authenticity. Spiritual seeker, entrepreneur, minimalist, creative, all just different costumes from the same catalog. The way people chase the same goals because we've all been given the same map of the same desert, pointing to the same mirage. You become a ghost in your former life. You show up to the same places, but you're not really there. They see your body, hear your voice making appropriate sounds, but the essential you has departed. You're haunting your own existence, walking through rooms that used to feel like home, and feeling like an intruder. The temptation to force reconnection is massive. To just pick any signal and commit to it with enough intensity that the doubt gets drowned out. Doesn't matter what it is. Religion, politics, fitness, business, anything that provides a framework, a community, a shared language, just something to end the freefall of not belonging anywhere. But if you grab the first signal that appears, you'll just be trading one borrowed existence for another. Maybe more sophisticated, maybe more conscious, but still not yours. Still something you're performing instead of being. The signal you're waiting for isn't external. It's not coming from culture or community or any guide or teacher. It's generating from inside you, from a depth you've never accessed before. And it's faint, barely perceptible. Not because it's weak, but because it's new. It's not competing with the loud transmissions from the world. It's a whisper underneath everything. To hear it, you have to get quiet in a way that feels like death. You have to stop filling the silence with podcasts and music and voices and advice. You have to sit in the static. Let the disconnection be complete. Let the loneliness hollow you out. Because that hollowing is what creates the space for something authentic to emerge. This phase has no timeline. It's not like you disconnect for 3 months and then everything clicks into place. Some people stay here for years, moving through their lives mechanically, going through motions, waiting for the new frequency to become clear. And the waiting is agony because you can't force it. You can't think your way into it. You can't achieve it or earn it or deserve it into existence. All you can do is stop interfering. Stop trying to restore the old connections. Stop pretending you still fit in places you've outgrown. Stop performing for people who need you to stay the same. The signal, lost, isn't a malfunction. It's not something to fix, it's a clearing. All the noise had to go silent for you to hear what's underneath. You're not losing your mind, you're losing your programming. And in that space between the old transmission and the new one, in that crackling emptiness, that's where the real you starts broadcasting. Quiet at first, easy to miss if you're distracted, but unmistakable once you learn to recognize it. Signal lost means you're finally free to find your own frequency. The one that's been there all along, drowned out by everything you were taught to listen to instead. The transmission isn't coming, it's already here. You just have to stop searching long enough to notice you're standing right on top of it. There's no funeral, no ceremony, no gathering of witnesses to mark the passing. But someone is dying. The person you've been for years, maybe decades, the collection of behaviors and beliefs and automatic responses you called yourself, is in its final hours. And you're simultaneously the one dying and the one watching it happen. This death doesn't feel symbolic, it feels visceral, physical. There's grief lodged in your chest with actual weight. Some mornings you wake up And the first sensation is loss, except you can't point to what you've lost because externally, everything remains the same. Same job, same apartment, same people in your contacts, but the person experiencing these things is dissolving. You notice it in small ways first. That joke you always made doesn't come out of your mouth anymore. That strong opinion you held for years, you can't remember why it mattered. That clothing style, that social ritual, that way of talking, they all feel like props from a play that closed. You're still holding them, but they belong to a character you're no longer playing. The strangest part is the memory disconnect. You have clear memories of being that person, of making those choices, feeling those feelings, but there's no living thread connecting that consciousness to this one. It's like finding old footage of yourself and recognizing the face, but not understanding the person behind it. Who was that? What were they thinking? You genuinely don't know. People in your life keep expecting the ghost to show up. They interact with you based on patterns established by the person you were. They expect certain reactions, certain interests, certain ways of engaging, and you try to accommodate. You put on the old persona because disappointing them feels cruel. But the performance gets harder daily. You're trying to animate something that's already deceased. Some of them sense the shift. You've changed, they say. You're distant, different. They say it like an accusation, like you violated an agreement. And maybe you have. Maybe the unspoken contract was that you'd remain consistent, predictable, knowable, that your identity would be stable enough to build their relationship on. But you can't honor that contract anymore. The ground is moving. The death moves through recognizable stages. Denial comes first. You tell yourself, this is temporary. A phase. You'll snap back to normal soon. You force engagement with old interests, old friends, old patterns. See, you tell yourself, I'm still me, but it sounds hollow, even in your own head. Anger follows. Why is this happening? Why can't you just function like everyone else? Why does everything have to be so complicated? You resent the disruption. You didn't ask for this dissolution. Things were fine, maybe not great, but functional, and functional seemed like enough. Then bargaining. Maybe if you change this external thing, the internal thing will stabilize. New job, new city, new relationship. Maybe the problem isn't you, it's your circumstances. So you plan escapes, fresh starts, geographical solutions to existential problems. Depression arrives when you realize there's no negotiating with this. The person you were is leaving whether you cooperate or resist. You can make it slower, more painful, cling to the corpse longer, but the process is unstoppable, and there's real grief in that. Even if that person was constructed, even if they were built to meet others' expectations, they were familiar. They were safety. You knew how to be them. Finally, acceptance, not peaceful, not happy, just the bare acknowledgement that this death serves a purpose, that who you were completed their function. They got you to this point, navigated a world with dangers you didn't yet understand, developed skills you needed, but they were always temporary. A vehicle, not a destination. The terror lives in the gap. You're no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming. You're nothing. Just awareness watching structures collapse. No personality to hide behind. No reflexive responses to protect you. No story about yourself that holds together. Just raw, undefended existence. This is when people make panic moves. They grab onto something, anything, to stop being nobody. A radical identity shift. Extreme lifestyle change. Dramatic relationship. They need form again so desperately they'll accept any shape just to end the formlessness. But these emergency identities never last. They're reactions, not revelations. built from fear instead of truth. You can force yourself into them temporarily, but the same dissolution will begin again, because you skipped the necessary emptiness. You didn't let the death finish. What needs to die is larger than you think, not just outdated beliefs or old habits, the entire infrastructure of selfhood as you've understood it. The need to be consistent, the need to explain yourself, the need to have a fixed set of values and traits and preferences, the need to be a definable thing at all. The person you were was built on certainty. They knew what they liked, what they believed, where they were headed. Some of that might have been genuine, but most was constructed for survival, for acceptance, for making yourself manageable to others and to your own mind. That architecture is collapsing now. Not because it failed, not because you did something wrong, but because you've outgrown it. When a snake sheds skin, the old skin didn't malfunction. There's just a bigger snake underneath that needs room. So let it die. Stop performing resurrection. Stop faking continuity for people who need you unchanged. The death you're experiencing isn't a problem to solve. It's a process to surrender to. Your only job is to not interfere, to sit with the grief, the terror, the gaping openness of not knowing who you are. Because on the other side of this death, there's something that doesn't need to be constructed. Something that exists prior to your ideas about yourself. Something that's been buried under layers of conditioning and compromise and performance your whole life. You're not losing yourself. You're losing everything that was never you to begin with. And what remains after this brutal stripping away, that's what you actually are. Not another personality you can put on and take off, but the awareness that watches all personalities come and go, the space in which selves appear and dissolve. This death is a gift, a violent, unwanted, terrifying gift, but a gift nonetheless. Because you can't become real while you're still committed to being the fictional character you created to survive. That character served you. Honor them. Thank them. And let them go. The person you were is dying, and the only mistake you can make now is trying to keep them alive. There's a version of your life that already exists, not as potential, not as future possibility, right now. Fully formed, breathing, waiting. It's been there the entire time you've been performing, compromising, contorting yourself into acceptable shapes. This other life isn't something you need to create. It's something you need to stop blocking. Picture yourself walking through your current existence wearing armor. Heavy metal plates covering every vulnerable part. You've worn it so long you forgot it's not your actual body. You think the weight is just what life feels like. But on the other side of this collapse, this confusion, this death, there's a version of you that removed the armor, and they're light, not careless, not naive, just unencumbered by defenses that stopped being necessary. The secret life operates on different physics than the one you've been living. Your current life runs on accumulation. More credentials, more accomplishments, more security, more proof of worth. It's exhausting because it never completes. There's always another level, another gap, another inadequacy demanding attention. But the secret life runs on subtraction. What can you remove? What can you stop defending? What can you release? It moves opposite to everything culture taught you. Instead of adding sophistication, you strip to essence. This life has been signaling you all along. Those moments of inexplicable restlessness when everything looked fine on paper. Those sudden urges to quit, to leave, to burn it all down that you dismissed as irresponsible. Those were messages from the secret life trying to reach you through the static of obligation and expectation. The crossing isn't clean. You don't wake up one morning fully inhabiting the secret life with all old patterns dissolved. It's more like living in two worlds simultaneously for a while. Part of you still running old programming, part of you already operating from the new place. And you move between them until gradually the new becomes more native than the old. When nothing makes sense, when you've lost signal with everything familiar, when the person you were is dying and you're standing in the wreckage wondering what's real, remember this. You're not falling apart, you're falling into alignment. The secret life isn't waiting somewhere else. It's here, right underneath the confusion. Already breathing, already alive, already you. All you have to do is stop preventing it, stop trying to restore old signals, stop resurrecting the dead version. The secret life won't force itself on you, but it won't disappear either. It'll keep dismantling everything false until only truth remains. That's the secret. You were always enough. The life you are searching for isn't out there. It's here, now, waiting for you to stop running and just arrive. The signal you lost was never yours to begin with, and the life waiting on the other side has been yours all along.